morning. Now, I'm delighted to say that we've got Alan Keane with us, another Sligo legend, a man in his 7 seasons of the club, won the league, won the FAI Cup, won the League Cup, won the Setanta Sports Cup as well, won it all, effectively, with a bit of red, and he is very much the voice of Sligo Rovers on the commentary, and was on commentary with Jessica Ferry last night as well. Alan, how are you getting on this morning?
Morning, how's things?
Well, look, I'd say as a Sligo man and as a Sligo supporter at this stage, while you're doing the commentaries as well, this must be one of the best mornings to wake up as a Sligo supporter.
Yeah, I'd say there's a few sore heads now around Sligo this morning after that result. Look, it was just superb from start to finish. And look, it kicked off with, as you said there earlier, with Shane Blaney free kick. Absolutely top drawer. And you could feel the atmosphere, the build up to the game. You could feel the buzz in around the ground, and it just gave a lift. And Motherwell really offered nothing. And people might say Motherwell were poor, but that's down to, I suppose, the tactics of Sligo Rovers and not really letting them play.
Well, Graham Alexander, the Motherwell boss, said that after both of the legs that, Motherwell didn't play well, but he gave all credit to Sligo for how they played, particularly after the away leg last week. And to be fair, I think there were many of us who kind of wondered after the UCD game what kind of form Sligo were in going across to Scotland. But that's two really good back-to-back performances. I'm talking about the quality of football here as much as the results themselves.
Yeah, look at you go back 2 weeks ago, they played Ballatown, and no disrespect to Ballatown, they're part-timers, they're, some of them have a day job and stuff like that, and they come over here and effectively Sligo Rovers should be out of Europe. Mm-hmm. They've missed chance upon chance, and they've took it to penalties. Then fast forward 3 or 4 days, Sligo Rovers play UCD and get played off the park and get beat. So no one gave anyone a chance going over there. Sligo Rovers a chance over there. But sometimes as players, that's what you relish in, because no one's giving you a chance. You're going out there with the freedom. You have a free hit nearly, as they say. And I think once they scored that Keane goal and they held on to something, it then started giving them the belief. And John Russell, the way he is and he's a top-class pro as a player, and I know the in-depth that he goes into in management, he would have just said to the lads, look, there's a massive opportunity here for you. You've nothing to fear. And it's exactly what they've done. I had a little bit of fear last night that the big crowd that was there, sometimes they get kind of a little caught up in it. But no, I think that Shane Blaney free just absolutely settled them into the game, and they kicked on from there.
When it came to the big crowd as well, there was every effort made to try and extend the attendance which was possible at the showgrounds. I'm sure one of the questions, Alan, that's going to come up now with Viking coming up in the next round, and the financial advantages are there from having a big crowd. Is there any possibility that Sligo move this game away from the showgrounds now? Well,
it is going by the UEFA criteria for the third round. It can't. It has to be moved away from Sligo. But I know behind the scenes here, speaking to one or two of the committee and the chairman last night, they're doing every best effort to keep it in Sligo. They really want it, and I think taking the game away from here would kill kind of a little bit of a buzz, so the fans, having to go across it, probably more than likely be Tala. It's probably the next best, the stadium. But I don't know what's exactly the criteria, but I know that the club are definitely working on trying to keep it here. I think it has to be a 4,000 to 4,500 seater stadium, and I think Sligo Rovers have 3,900 or 3,800, so they're a bit short. And you can't put in a temporary stand going by UEFA standards either. So it will be disappointing if it's moved away from Sligo, but I'm sure the club will do their best efforts to keep it in Sligo.
And Alan, I'm sure the team themselves, being used to playing on the pitch, all those type of things will really stand to them in these type of games.
Yeah, that's it. As a player, you're used to all your surroundings, you're used to things. So when you get moved away for your home game away somewhere else, it is difficult, because I don't think you feel that buzz that does be around the town here. Once it's shifted across up to Dublin, yeah, there's a massive support in Dublin as well for Sligo Rovers, but everyone will want it here in Sligo, because it'll bring that buzz. But it'll bring that buzz providing they get a good result in the away leg first, which is away first next Thursday.
Yeah, even from covering Dundalk in the last few seasons, where they've had to go to the Aviva Stadium and they've had to go to Tala. Notwithstanding the last run in the group stages of the Europa League was during the pandemic, so that kind of changed things as well. But it doesn't quite feel the same when your team has to go to someone else's ground to play. As great as these occasions are, and playing teams like Arsenal and Molde in their case, it isn't quite, and for Sligo particularly, having to come all the way across the country to play as well.
No, it's not. And I was part of the Dundalk Europa League side in 2016, and we had to. I remember, you know, we were up around Dundalk, and your next game you're playing. I think it was St. Petersburg, and we had to go to Tala to play them there, and it just wasn't the same kind of buzz. You're leaving Dundalk to come and play in Tala. So look at they have a great committee down here in Sligo, great chairman Tommy Higgins, Colin Feely CEO. So I know for a fact that they'll do everything in their right. I think there's an inspection in the next couple of days, day or two, and hopefully that's passed and they get to have it here, because it's great. Like the fans and everything, it'll just mean a lot to the town as well, because during the week here, the buzz around the place, and then when the Motherwell fans arrived in Wednesday, you know, it was some atmosphere and you could feel the buzz around the town.
Yeah, look, it's the memories from nights like tonight that will resonate and stay around with Sligo supporters for a lot longer than the money coming in. But from a financial point of view, this is going to bring in close to €1 million by the end of this run. It's 850,000 already in the bank. When I think of, you know, Sligo a few years ago having to fundraise quite heavily, this is such an important injection of money into the club.
Massive, because I think the budget, I think it's 1.8 million for the year. So you're talking that 850k straight off is absolutely massive, and it'll stand to them for the next year or two. But it's important as well that they do try and qualify again for Europe next year, and I think that's where the financial rewards are. And it is difficult. Our league is a really difficult league, because you look at the league at the minute, like there's 4 or 5, 6 teams vying for that European 3 European spots. Like, so for John as well, it'll be a massive boost. He might be able to strengthen his squad to have a big push in the league come towards the end of the year.
How important a signing has Alan Keane been? We mentioned outside the show, it's not that long ago, he was playing in Scotland himself. He's come in, scored a lot of goals for you so far this season.
Yeah, like Alan Keane, like he reminds me of when he first joined. He reminds me of that Mark Quigley, the way he plays. He's just the instincts of him in around the box, his cleverness, and you've seen it for the second goal last night. He's picked the ball up. He's put it around the defender on a play for Max Mata. And it was parts of the game last night where he's tried to chip the keeper from a distance, and he did do it at one stage, but it was a free out, like, you know, so it was offside or something. But he's a top class player, and it was great business by John to get him tied down to 2024. But I tell you what, there will be clubs looking at him, and he could go for a fee if he keeps up the performances that he's putting in.
You mentioned the journey you've had so far. I mean, like, McGinty basically keeps Sligo in Europe in that game against Bala going back a few weeks ago. Now you can look forward for the first time ever to playing the third round of qualifying for a tournament when it comes to this new Conference League. What's the feeling about going to Viking and playing Norway next week, or playing in Norway next week even?
You see, that's it. Like, you just don't know. It's like, as you said, Ballatown. People were booking their trips for Motherwell, and they were lucky to get through, you know. So people now are kind of going, as the rounds go on. I'm sure a lot of people are Googling Viking last night and Googling Viking this morning, and they're no great, won't be any easy pushover either. Like, but it's important that next Thursday that they go there and they be able to take a result back home to Sligo, you know, or wherever the game may be, because it's very important. And I think that's the story of the season so far for Sligo Rovers, that when they're the underdogs, they really, really perform. When they're the favourites tag, i.e. Ballatown, the UCD game and a few others, they don't seem to perform. But I think the lads, John will keep them grounded, and I'm sure this morning he's looking forward to the Westford Youths game at the weekend in the FAI Cup.
It's a slightly more complex trip this time round to get to Norway, I think, as well, because a few mates of mine who were Sligo supporters went to both the away games, and ahead of the Bala game they got a couple of nights in Liverpool, and a lot went over and kind of took in either Glasgow or Edinburgh on the way to Motherwell last time out. 2 relatively easy trips to make. This time round probably a little bit more difficult to get to Norway, as Pats fans probably saw. We'll be talking to some of the Pats camp later, but they had to go, I think, into Austria and then go from Austria to Slovenia. So I'd say planes, trains, automobiles will have to be worked out for people going to Norway next week.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of places already being looked at and logistically, but I think the club are looking to put on a chartered flight, and they're working on that as well at the minute. So hopefully that they can get that, because there's no doubt about it, they'll pack that out. You know, it was a couple of years back, I think it was 2010, we went to Poltava and they put on a chartered flight. They could have put on 3 or 4 chartered flights. You know, the fans are just, I think they're caught up in the European buzz now as well, and Some do like the trips, the getting the bus, then a train, then another train across, so it's all part and parcel of the European trips, I suppose. But it is logistically, it is a difficult trip for them.
I'm going to ask you about John Russell and the impact that he's had, because there were plenty of people who looked at, say, when Buckley left and wondering what direction Sligo were going to go in, and there have been, as you mentioned, a few kind of ropey domestic results along the way, but it seems that he's got that team really playing for him now.
Yeah, it is. And John would have worked obviously under Liam for a while, so he'd known his players, he would have known exactly what he wants, but I'm not sure the input he had when Liam was there. So I think we're probably now seeing the input that John would like to put in himself. John will want the players playing on the front foot. He's a clever in his way as well. He'll do his research on every team, everything, and he'll know how to manage the players, and he's very good like that. He's not only he's a nice man as well, so he'll look at the lads, I suppose, on a personal level as well, but also he won't be afraid to let it known if he's not happy. And I think the impact he's made from his first game, Derry City beating them at home, Derry were flying it, and next thing they beat them at home. And yes, they had a few ropey results, and a few fans were like, "Oh, wrong decision, shouldn't have just done that." But it's football is patience, and it's paid off. This is the first time in the history of the club that they've got past the second round. So absolutely delighted for Rustler and obviously the club.
Yeah, it's a magnificent run. Alan, thanks a million for joining us on OTB AM this morning.
No problem. Thanks to yourselves.
Delighted to say that we've got Alan Keane from OTB SPORts who's going to be joining us in a moment as well. She was at the showgrounds last night, Ash. I mean, it has to be one of those things you go along to watch your own team succeed like that. She got a couple of fan videos which we're going to play out in a few minutes too, and like, League of Ireland fans are often long suffering. And when you get results like this, they're there to be cherished, and it's perhaps even all the more special that Pats went through in the same night as well.
It's massive, it really is, and this is why you're a fan, this is why you're a supporter, especially if it's your own club as well. These nights don't come around too often. As we said, they had 4 wins in Europe before these games, and it's just unbelievable for them now to be on this run, and to see John, a former player, in there as well, taking them to this as well, is something else. And it's just special, it really is, and we'll see what happens now after this and how far they can go on, but it's massive for the club. It's only going to drive the club on further. It shows what they can do. It highlights the League of Ireland. It's just brilliant, and yeah, I'm sure they will kick on, because last night I thought was really impressive. They're coming up against a good Motherwell side. They're a good Scottish Premiership team, and yeah, I think they put in a really good performance, and yeah, it's exciting now to see where they can go. Not to forget Shamrock
Rovers as well, and we're celebrating Pats and Sligo today, but Rovers been a really good performance against Ludogorets on Tuesday night. The damage was done with the goals that they conceded in the first leg, but they went out in their shield, and they'll still be hopeful of progressing in Europe next week. So I'd say Alan Keane is with us now, who was at the showgrounds last night. How does that rank, Alan, of nights that you've gone to the showgrounds, getting through to the third round of qualifying in Europe?
It's definitely up there. Well, I suppose I was the product of the 2010 kind of area where we won the 2 FAI Cups and then the league. So I'd say now there was a few more that had that kind of passion ignited in them last night, from grown men crying to little kids being over the moon. It was amazing night. Yeah, we're just looking at some of the fan footage here at the moment for those who are joining us on social media on OTB AM. I mean, it's packed to the rafters, Alana, is the first thing. As Alan was mentioning, unfortunately, the UEFA weren't allowing temporary stands to go in, where they were trying to increase the capacity beyond the 4,500. But anyone who could get a ticket that was a Sligo Rovers fan to go in and watch that game against Motherwell last night, and a sizable Scottish support came over too, were packed into the showgrounds. Yeah, definitely will. And there was even a few that didn't get a ticket that maybe were wanting to be in there. I know there was talk maybe of the mall setting up a screen in town. Now that didn't pan out in the end, but that was the demand for the tickets. It tells you all you need to know in that regard, because there was just masses and masses of people. I haven't seen the showgrounds really like it in years, to be honest. And as you're saying there, it's just bringing that buzz back to the club and highlighting the product that we have in the League of Ireland. I think, sometimes we often kind of give out about it, maybe in that, a lot of our best players maybe end up going overseas, but that just tells you the calibre of the product that is there. And, you get days like this then the odd time for all the hardship of it for those fans, I guess. And tell us about the reaction 3 minutes in, Shane Blaney's free kick. What was it like? Yeah, I think it just said everyone's stunned. I'd love to actually watch it back, because it it went in and it was just like an oh my god kind of way, because it was from a massive distance, and I know he had mentioned even in the build-up that he does like those distances, but yeah, I think it was just stunned and then just jubilation, I guess, the jumps from the seats and the absolute screams, because while the Scottish media were calling Sligo Rovers in the build-up to this the Irish minnows, maybe the Irish minnows could pull out a result over 90 minutes, but to do it over 180 is a different story, and it just tells you that Sligo Rovers were the better team on the day and did in fact deserve that result. It wasn't a fluke, I guess.
I think it kind of surprised the Motherwell goalkeeper a little bit too. I was watching the game on Premier Sports and their commentary team were thinking he shouldn't be getting beaten from that kind of range. But I think genuinely he thought defender is coming up to address the ball here. In all likelihood, we're going to defend our 18-yard box and he's probably just clipping the ball in. You're not expecting a knuckleball free kick from that kind of range to be shot on goal.
And as you say, by a defender too. Now, as he was saying, even in the build-up, like I was just mentioning there, he does have it in his locker. But they were probably looking at this defender walking up to the ball and going, "Oh God, like here we go," as you're saying. But when I was chatting to him there afterwards, he was just saying, he struck it so well that it just floated into the top corner. It was a brilliant goal to watch, and the showgrounds loved that one.
Yeah, Shifty Lad in contact on YouTube in the comments. Well, it seems League of Ireland teams might be able to hold their own in the Scottish League, Division 1 in England also. Pity we don't really appreciate it here. And I'm included in that, being more of a GA man. Congratulations to Sligo Rovers. I think possibly a bit of a stretch to say that Sligo will be competing in the SPL or any of our League of Ireland teams, even Shamrock Rovers competing in the SPL. It would be a hell of a step up. But when you think of Alan, I was just looking back. We were chatting to Alan Keane a few minutes ago, and he was on with the Bala game. And you look at how important McGinty was, and then next thing he gets transferred away. This time of year is actually pretty difficult for League of Ireland clubs, and Sligo have felt that too, where teams come in with cash for players. And we were talking about it on the show last night. Nathan was chatting to a League of Ireland agent about how they just can't compete with the money that's available even in League 1 and League 2 in England, and players are going to get taken away usually for very small release clauses. But Sligo were able to just keep going, and you've put in a new goalkeeper there for the last couple of games, and he's done pretty well.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you caught it watching the stream well, but I noticed there was a moment, and it's not getting much traction, I don't think. It was well into the second half, but Luke McNicholas, the guy you're talking about who replaced Ed McGinty, and has stood up to that, it stood into those boots superbly, but he came out and was doing the sweeper keeper, came well out of his line, well past the box to clear the ball, and then headed it. I couldn't believe it. Went the whole way out and then headed it. That just tells you the confidence, I suppose, that was in that squad. And it does have a mass amount of leaders too, because let's say even Cawley went off and he passed the armband to McDonald, and then McDonald was going off and he passed it to Buckley. And you weren't kind of going, oh God, all of them are leaders in that Sligo Rovers squad. And then you'd forget, Greg Bulger wasn't even playing, So I think, like you're saying there, League of Ireland clubs do kind of get hit when the transfer window rolls around, but there is that quality there, and other players only too delighted to step up into those positions. Yeah,
look, when your keeper's willing to come out and head the ball and sweep keep like that, that's just total football. And look, in fairness, I was saying to Alan a few minutes ago, Sligo played really nice football over these two legs. All the focus in the UK is going to be that Motherwell have been embarrassed and knocked out in the second round of Europa League qualifying, but that doesn't give credit to how well Sligo have played over the last 180 minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And I just heard a touch of Alan there before he came on. I think that's a credit to John Russell, but also it's a credit to Liam Buckley. I think he's kind of got a bit forgotten about in all this, because he's the one who got them there. Let's not not remember that, because he's the one who got them to this stage. Now, John has done superb work since he came in, and I'd say he himself, I was watching him on the sideline keenly last night, he was probably having flashbacks. I'm sure you're aware of that Rosenborg tie in 2014. Sligo came home and were expected to win that one, and were I think it was 3-1 up with 77 minutes gone in the second leg, and then it all fell to pieces, 4-3 then in the end, and he was playing in that team, so I'd say he knew well how to manage the expectations and kind of keep the nerves at bay, even though I'd say if you watch back the footage, his nerves weren't too good coming into the second half there.
Well, Anna, you were chatting to, one of the men at the moment who's going to have a free kick that's going to be remembered for many a year. You were chatting to Shane Blaney last night.
Yeah, he was in flying form. I don't think he could quite believe the result himself. he knew as he said, he had the free kick in his locker, but just then after that, I think he was kind of just soaking it in a little bit. And then, as ever, looking forward to the next game and putting it all behind them. I think they were all saying that, they have the Norway tie obviously next week, but the FAI Cup first, and Sligo, as we all know, went out first round in the FAI Cup last year, so they'll be looking to avenge that and put on a performance there as well, I'd say.
All right, we can hear from Shane Blaney there talking to Alana after the game at the Showgrounds.
Shane, a massive performance from yourself tonight. What are the emotions like right now after that win?
It's brilliant. Obviously a class night for the club and for us as players, and the crowd was unbelievable. But it's just a really, really class night. Like,
the goal had everyone stunned just a few minutes in. Talk us through that and what you were kind of thinking.
Look, it was a good distance for me. I liked them. I liked that it was a wee bit further out, and I lined it up, and I seen kind of last second he kind of shifted to his right hand post. He thought I might cut it back, but I've just put it over the far side. So thankfully it's snuck in, and it's brilliantly.
And the feeling afterwards?
Brilliant. Obviously class, like, but I knew we had to focus straight away, like, cause we couldn't get carried away. It was 3 minutes in, and we know the quality they have throughout their team, and they're obviously playing at a higher level, and they have clever midfielders who can slip a ball in and tear you apart in one pass. Like, so we knew we had to be switched on, and thankfully we were over the 90 in both legs.
And some people are saying that's the most kind of electric they've seen the Showgrounds in years. Would you kind of echo that?
Well, I've not seen much of the Showgrounds in years, but tonight that was unbelievable. So I wouldn't imagine there being many topping that. Like, but it's incredible to think we have another one coming now in 2 weeks' time. So.
And then on defensive duties, then you were clearing the lines quite a lot also. What was that like, kind of keeping all sides happy that way? You're on the score sheet and kept a clean sheet as well.
Yeah, look, a clean sheet's massive. We knew that coming into the tie. Obviously, a clean sheet was going to get us through. So to get two over both legs, it's what you want as a defender. And thankfully, we defended really well from the front, not just us as a back four. Like, from Alan Keane and Max Mata, when he came on, we defended so well from the front, and thankfully now we're through.
And are you looking forward to that tie already? I know you have to say now the cup is first, but
it is. This cup's so important. Like, and Sunday's massive for us because we know what happened last year in the cup. The first round we got knocked out, so it's still there. It's chipping our shoulders, and we have to go out on Sunday and put in the same type of performance and really get the place going so that we can get a good cup run going.
And just when you mentioned the chip on your shoulder, also a lot of the build-up was talking about the minnows, quote-unquote, Sligo. What was that kind of in reaction to you guys? Was that a bit of motivation?
Not really. Like, we obviously it came after the first leg, so no, I wouldn't pay attention much to that stuff. Like, it's obviously just newspapers, but Motherwell knew themselves what they were coming into. They wouldn't have been. Their manager wouldn't have been calling us minnows. Like, they knew coming here tonight they were going to have a tough task, and they did, and we limited them to very few chances again, and thankfully took a 2-0 win.
Congratulations, Shane. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lana, you can definitely feel the confidence of Shane there. And is this something throughout the team? Do you feel that buzz when you're speaking to them? Because definitely on the pitch you can see that they're really clicking.
Yeah, I think so in one way, Aisling, yes, but I suppose their problem at the minute is kind of consistency. You know, they can pull it out in these so-called big games, you know, the European games. But just at the week before, they had lost to UCD. So I'd say that's what he's kind of conscious of there when he's saying that, you know, they need to get the focus on and have as much build up into that cup game as they did to this game, because I suppose that's the mark of a great team, isn't it? When they can stay consistent throughout and have those big performances, but also pull it out of the bag when they're playing a different quality of team as well.
Well, I've no doubt the credit unions around Sligo Town are going to be getting hit with people trying to get to Norway next Thursday for the first leg against Viking, and then probably going to Dublin most likely for the tie in the round the week afterwards, so the second leg. Alana, thanks a million for joining us after what was a momentous night at the Showgrounds last night.
That'll be some night for Sligo Rovers, well, if they have to play that one in Shamrock Rovers. But yeah, thanks a million.
Go on, we'll talk to you later on. The Rovers may well be at home for a different Rovers next week, depending on what happens, but the debate will go on about that.